Hello and good afternoon. I am hopping on with one of my most recent videos about pop culture and sexuality. I don't know if anyone here watches In Just Like That season 3. I unfortunately am watching it. I don't know why I'm watching the show. It is very challenging to watch. And yet here I am. But I wanted to talk about a storyline that really stuck out to me as a sex therapist, and share my thoughts on it. So there will be spoilers, warning, in Just Like That season 3 spoilers. So if you don't want to know what's going on, stop the video now. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Harry and Charlotte's storyline. I actually wanted to hop on last week's episode, the episode where they are having sex, trying to have sex, and he gets really frustrated, and then it gets interrupted, and then Rock comes in. I actually wanted to hop on them, but I want to adjust what I was going to say a little bit in the context of the new episode. So last week's episode had Charlotte and Harry. It was really hard to tell whether he was experiencing erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. I couldn't quite tell. I kind of thought it was the first one. It seemed like he was having a hard time achieving an erection. And then basically he gets frustrated and the sexual experience ends, and then they get interrupted by Rock, who's coming in to talk about Harry's father. So my first thought about that was I kind of was surprised how quickly And Just Like That moved through that storyline, which then made sense in the context of the next week, which, again, spoiler alert, we find out Harry has prostate cancer, which is funny because I was actually thinking that when he, remember how earlier in the season he wet himself at a club, and then there was this sexual problem, and I was like, I wonder if it's Harry's prostate. It actually was a thought that crossed my mind. So then lo and behold, when he had prostate cancer, I was like, okay, well, that actually makes sense. So I see what they were doing is they were actually rushing to get to that plot line. But I wanted to talk a little bit about prostate cancer and its impact on men and sexuality. Prostate cancer is fairly common in older men over 50. Not old, but older. And so I wanted to pull up this book that we read in my ASECT training, written by Dr. Stephanie Bueller, who is actually the founder of the institute I train with. And she talked a little bit about prostate cancer in here and just how much sexual problems are overlooked as part of treatment from doctors. And you can kind of see it with the way Harry gets in his head. Of course, at that point, I don't think he knew about the prostate cancer diagnosis, but you can really see with the way he gets in his head about like his virility and his manhood and like what this means about him. The thing that really kind of frustrated me with the way the show handled it was Charlotte's reaction of her being like, well, we're still Harry and Charlotte if we don't have sex. And I just thought that was a really quick throwing in the towel. Again, now I see the context that this was to rush to get to the prostate cancer storyline, but that really was crazy to me because like Charlotte and Harry have always had a really strong sexual connection, and I find it like dismissive of that storyline to just be like, oh, well, you're old now, so we're not going to have sex. Especially because we know, if you're a Sex and the City fan like I was, that Charlotte was tossing Harry's salad. So there are lots of things on her menu that she's pretty open to. So that's definitely something I would encourage them as a couple to look into, would be to like explore like what's their sexual script at this point. Like, are they in kind of a, we do this, we do this, and we do this kind of thing? And then maybe opening that up to include some other activities, which we know from watching Charlotte and Harry that they engage in, like oral sex. Prostate cancer, now that we know about that part, can impact sexual function, and it can take a long time to recover that. And it can impact sexual function in terms of the penis, but it can also impact sexual function in terms of like receiving anal sex in men, which is something I think is also not maybe talked about as much. So that would be something that would be hard, or they'd have to like, figure out how to make that work. If they wanted to do that moving forward. So I think that would be something, for me, I would like to see more conversations about like how much that means to them, helping her and Harry stay connected through this really challenging diagnosis of prostate cancer. And then also like helping them kind of break up some of the like scripts or beliefs they might have fallen into, because we know the two of them are very open and they have been in the past. Another pet peeve of me with this show is that those kids should be in their 20s if we're following the timeline of the actual show when it was airing. So they shouldn't have high schoolers walking in and interrupting them anymore, but that's a very real thing. Like, okay, let's pretend that that's a thing and that the timeline of the show makes any sense, even though it does not. But, maybe carving out time for the two of them. Also, body image is a huge issue for men with prostate cancer or erectile dysfunction. So I would encourage Harry to work on that as well, to work with a therapist on improving his body image and his sense of self and his confidence, even as he experiences some of the frustrations that can come with healing from prostate cancer. So anyway, that just all struck me. Again, now I see what they were doing. They were rushing to this plot line because they knew that was going to be kind of the meat of the season. But I just think for a show that broke so much ground, sometimes hasn't aged well for some of the ground it broke, but for a show that really did tackle a lot of topics, like Trey, Charlotte's first husband, the whole erectile dysfunction plotline, like that was seasons of exploration. And again, we would talk about that differently now too, but I just thought that it was really upsetting that it just sort of like zoomed past that. They didn't even talk about some of the more like obvious, well-known medical interventions like Viagra, Cialis, like all those medications. And I'm not saying he should take them or that he can, but like those are pretty well-known, popular, covered by insurance, which is a whole thing into itself, right? Around like men's health versus women's health, versus trans affirming care. But anyway, that is something that's typically covered. So I was like, I just wish they would have slowed down and spent more time on it, because it is a big issue. And as as medicine gets better and better, thank God, we're all going to live longer and longer, and these are going to continue to be more important issues. I know for a fact, like, just because you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s doesn't mean you want to stop having sex. So I think what really upset me is that the undercurrent of the interaction Charlotte and Harry had in bed was like, oh, we're too old now to have a sex life, so like whatever, we'll still be ourselves, like we'll still be this couple. And I was like, but you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're not too old to have sex, and there's stuff you can do. And God knows the two of them have the resources. So they could probably hire Esther Perel herself to come walk them through some things. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that to start. I'll be curious to see where this prostate cancer plotline goes. They better not kill Harry off. I feel like watching him and Charlotte come together throughout the original series was like such a big part of it for me. So I hope he heals and he sticks around, and I hope they do a more in-depth conversation around this. I think And Just Like That is struggling because there's now, I guess, 5 main characters, and that's just like a lot of people to follow, which is great. I actually really like SEMA and LTW, especially like LTW on the show, but I just think it's a lot of people to cram in, and they're wasting time on some like stupid plot lines, like Carrie's whole rat backyard thing, that I think they could like redirect some of that energy into these more serious issues and like actually have these conversations. But yeah, that's a really one that stuck out to me, and one I look forward to see what they're doing and want to make sure that it's covered accurately. And I hope that the ongoing narrative in the show isn't like, you're old, you had prostate cancer, oh well, we're done having sex, because it's not necessarily like that, nor does it have to be. So those are my thoughts. Okay, in the comments below, let me know if you're watching And Just Like That and what you think. Do you like Harry and Charlotte together? Are you kind of hoping she's back single via his death, or the dissolution of their marriage, or that they become ethically non-monogamous? That's something too that is quite common when one partner has a cancer diagnosis. The other partner, they might open the relationship so the other partner can fulfill sexual needs. Yeah, so what are you hoping is going to happen on the show? I'm just hoping that they're going to have a more nuanced and in-depth conversation about these things instead of playing into the already harmful cultural stereotype we have that when you're old, things stop working and you're not interested in sex anymore and it doesn't matter. So, okay. Like, subscribe, and follow my channel. That's my first time saying that, I think. This is my first time putting any energy towards my YouTube. So, yay, welcome. Thank you for coming. And I hope these videos get better and better. All right. Have a good one.